just wasn't happy here. It wasn't home for him.
There was not a day that he did not ask, when am I going home? He sat at the doors of complex care and would not budge because he's like, I'm not losing sight of these doors because I know that I'm leaving them.
What can't you say about Dwayne?
I think Dwayne is just a really easygoing guy.
He's a big sports fanatic.
He is one of the most powerful Sioux Greyhound fans that I know.
He is definitely a character.
He always has a smile. He's always got a thumbs up for you.
I think the world of Dwayne.
Dwayne makes me want to come to work every day. This is why I do what I do.
He was involved in a car accident when he was a child, and he sustained some serious injuries from that. He's been in a wheelchair for the majority of his life. His chronic medical conditions have evolved over time. Things such as a tube feed to help meet his nutritional needs. He needs a tracheostomy with the decreased function of his lungs ever before even progressing to needing the chronic mechanical ventilator.
Dwayne is someone who experiences physical disabilities, who has overcome a lot of these obstacles and barriers for people with physical disabilities or people who have communication challenges. When Dwayne entered the hospital approximately a year and a half ago, he had some real compromised, serious health issues, and he wanted to come home. But we were really worried about the potential risk and how his health had been compromised, and whether we could support him with the adaptive equipment that he has now. Thankfully, we had an opportunity to meet with the direct support professionals that knew Dwayne and had spent time with Dwayne at the hospital. There was some real genuine interest, but real worry about having Dwayne return home. But we were very deeply committed, and we had worries and fears, and the hospital had worries and fears, but by working together, we could address them to ensure that Dwayne's needs would be met successfully. Very powerful things started to happen. We had staff visiting Dwayne on a daily basis while he was in the hospital. People that were working with him at the hospital started to think about supporting him to do the things he wanted in the community. So there would be a person from the hospital volunteering with Dwayne, us with our paid supports, and Dwayne was being supported in the community very successfully. What are we really afraid of?
My name's Christine Gregoire. At the time of Dwayne's coming here, I was a services manager here at 1020 Queen Street, and that role was overseeing the people we support here as well as the staff. So my role in his transition back home basically was to liaise with the hospital staff, in particular Paul Nanny, who was the respiratory technician up at the hospital who was going to be doing the training.
I've known Dwayne for several years. He's been quite a frequent visitor to the hospital due to some of his health issues. But most recently, with regard to his home ventilation, that basically started in the beginning of 2017. I believe it was around March. In that case, he was up in ICU on a ventilator. After treatment, it was basically determined that he would have to stay on a ventilator for the remainder of his life. The goal was to get him home on a ventilator. The first thing was to get funding for the equipment as well as obtaining the equipment, and that's, again, we have to apply to some government programs as well as get equipment from the ventilator equipment pool. And that was actually probably the easier of the things to do. The other thing was having a way to train the staff at the group home that will be taking care of Dwayne. And that can be quite a big project. There's a lot of hours involved, especially training staff that are not familiar with this type of equipment. I've taken part in sending many patients home on ventilators, but that usually involved maybe training one or two family members. With Dwayne, because he is at the group home, there is a large number of staff that work there that would have to be responsible for taking care of him. And we had to train all of those staff and that numbered well over a dozen. The RT staff here were great. We got them on board, and they scheduled time to take part in training all the staff. For me personally, that I've never had to train that many people.
My name's Jennifer McLaughlin. I'm a patient care supervisor for geriatric rehab, intensive rehab, and complex continuing care at Sioux Area Hospital. I facilitate the movement of patients from acute and sometimes the community to our programs. So the first time I met Dwayne was in early 2017 when I was a staff nurse in ICU. I cared for him while he was there. I moved to a position here for our programs as a patient care supervisor and continued being a part of his care during his time on complex care. My role in facilitating Dwayne's transition back home to CLA was to help organize and implement a training program for the CLA staff to help them learn how to care for Dwayne in this new way with the ventilator, and help them and our staff to really learn what that looks like and how we could get him home safely. It's a technical piece of equipment. It's attached to a human being that they care very deeply for. The education was the key piece to that. Paul Nanny did an amazing job, as did Vital Air and CLA, in coming forward with great ideas. How can we get staff to be at a place of comfort? And I think certainly the time spent with Dwayne, caring for him in the hospital under the supervision of a nurse who has cared for him with the vent, really helped them translate that knowledge that they learned, kind of in a classroom setting, to what that would look like caring for Dwayne in person.
We started here in hospital with training our staff, having them go up to look after him in intensive care, doing a lot of online modules and workbooks here, and working with our respiratory therapists. And after we had our staff trained, we started pulling in CLA. We had them work with respiratory therapists both in the hospital and from the community sector. There was a lot to learn in regards to what the ventilator alarms meant, and so that they would know what to do with Dwayne or what to do with that equipment, and just building that comfort level for staff. And the only way to do that is with a lot of hands-on training. That's how you work through the problems. The alarms would go on the vent, and you'd see that look of panic initially with the staff, and you'd reassure them to look at Dwayne. Does he look to be okay? Focus on him, and then work your way out to the ventilator to troubleshoot through the alarms. Watching him go out that door and know that he was in really great hands with CLA and with our other community members to support that transition home was a very rewarding moment for me.
The transition went really great. Staff felt very confident and competent with their skills, which I'm really proud of and they're proud of. Everybody was very professional, and everyone had the best interests of Dwayne at heart. And I think another thing too was one of our staff, Sarah, who has also worked with Event in the community, also I think brought a calming presence to staff, and I think that was also very helpful in making this transition successful.
I was his support staff at the time, so I facilitated a transition schedule with the manager, implemented it by going to the hospital every day to pick him up in the morning and bringing him back in the evening, and during the time he was here, I trained all the staff, so we had several checklists and sign-offs and a lot of practice. But it made them at ease that one of their teammates were able to troubleshoot the vent and teach them and be here for questions. Can't say enough about how amazing they are, and it is a huge undertaking and a lot to learn. So we began training in August at the hospital with Paul and the RTs. Afterwards, he came home and I had a checklist in place and a sign-off sheet as well. So we did a couple more sessions of training all the way until November 13th when he permanently moved home. Yeah, to my knowledge, nothing has been done like this in the zoo.
The training went very well between the hospital and ourselves. I think that we had some great collaboration between different members of the hospital team and our team. I had been connected with somebody down south who had mentioned to me that in our community we did have a respiratory technician that had been down south that had moved up here to one of our service providers, and so that immediately was the connection for me, and I contacted Lacey.
Working with Dwayne and the staff at CLA has been amazing. All the staff are wonderful, very quick learners, and they really made my job very easy in transitioning Dwayne back home. VitalAire's connection with CLA and the hospital actually came about with providing oxygen to residents at some of their other homes. With the hospital, we work with the respiratory therapy department there quite closely on an ongoing basis, providing oxygen and other services. And with CLA, really what happened is they called us one day and said, is it possible for him to come home? And we were still trying to figure that out, what that would look like, and if it was even possible in his situation. We did decide that yes, it was something that was possible. It would take a lot of work, but it could absolutely be done. From there, we kind of just grew that partnership even further and providing more services for them and helping them in any way needed. It was definitely a huge task, and without that work and collaboration that we had between the hospital, the home here with CLA, and VitalAire, it just wouldn't have all happened.
Community Living Algoma wasn't going to walk away. Sioux Area Hospitals wasn't going to give up. VitalAire wasn't going to give up. None of us would accept that it couldn't be done as an answer.
CLA's bravery, Dwayne's bravery, our bravery in doing something that hasn't been done before made us understand that we can impact lives hugely and we do worthwhile work, and despite challenges and obstacles, that it's worth doing.
It took a lot of work by a lot of people to make it happen. And so Dwayne's dream of returning home has been fulfilled, and he's with the people he wants to be with. It was really powerful and rewarding to see Dwayne get his opportunity to be home. And I think we learned a lot as an organization. We learned how to work better with our community partners, a different approach, and met a lot of people from Sioux Area Hospital that we never knew in our past. And they're remarkable people. Right to this day, they genuinely care and are checking in and are looking forward to Dwayne's homecoming party, which is planned next week.
I would like to thank all of the professionals that we worked with at the Sioux Area Hospital throughout this whole transition. They were very supportive. I enjoyed working with them. Our staff team is remarkable. I know that it was a very long undertaking for them in terms of skills that they had to develop and grow, and it's so nice to see them very confident and competent. They cared a lot for Dwayne, and they were very committed and dedicated, and so I'm very proud of that.
We are really looking forward to the next chapter, and that is that we continue to explore with Dwayne what he wants in his life. Our ultimate objective is to help him fulfill whatever goals and dreams he continues to have and to develop that next chapter.
So Dwayne would like to formulate a presentation and go into elementary schools and talk to young kids about road safety, because he was hit by a car when he was 5, and just give his life story about what happened to him.
There's no barrier that can't be overcome. If we really put our time, our heart, and our mind to it, anything is possible.
Are? Happy? Dwayne's very happy to be back home again. He would like to say thanks to everyone who helped with his transition. All of the teams, the hospital, the staff here, the managers, all of the support people. He's very grateful.